That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Mack and Rita, the third film directed by Katie Aselton, which Gravitas Ventures is releasing on August 12th, 2022.
What are Katie's two other films?
Well, Katie's an actress who's been around for a while. She's married to Mark Duplass. We reviewed several films she's been in, including, and I thought I remember you liking her in She Dies Tomorrow, but she was in Bombshell recently in Synchronic. Her first film as a director was 2010's The Freebie, which I think co-starred Dax Shepard, and I've seen, and is about a couple who decide to, as the title says, give each other a freebie as they can step out of the relationship and have sex with someone for a minute. And her 2012 film, her last feature, was called Black Rock, and I remember seeing that at Sundance, and it stars herself alongside Kate Bosworth and Lake Bell as a trio of old friends who get together and then off the coast of Maine on some island called Black Rock, and they're assaulted by if I remember correctly, an ex-veteran. And that film, I remember not being well received, so I don't know if that's why it's taken her a decade to have another feature. But upon learning I've always been a little bit lukewarm on Diane Keaton, but seeing the incredible supporting cast and master of this film, I was very interested in seeing it. Notably, it was written by Madeline Walter and Paul Welsh, who are also actors primarily that have also done some television writing together on the series Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
The basic story is there's a woman named Mac, played by
Elizabeth Lail.
She's 30 years old. The opening of the film is describing her as like a young girl and how she says she always had the spirit of an old gal. She spent a lot of time with her grandmother, who we see for a very brief moment, who appears to be this fabulous older woman who had her own sense of style and her own outlook on the world, which really seemed to be about being like true to herself. So we get this little montage and we assume that when we meet her as an adult, she's going to be this very confident, self-assured woman who's doing things her way. But that's really not how things go for her. Just to make the story short, she is going to Palm Springs. She lives in LA. She's going to Palm Springs for the weekend to celebrate her best friend's upcoming wedding.
Carla, played by Taylour Paige.
And she's there with three other women, including her best friend. And the other two women are very much about like partying and hanging out and like doing brunch at a place that's like super loud and busy, when we hear that Mac just wants to go sit at like the IHOP across the way and eat in peace.
And actually eat pancakes.
Right. So they leave brunch, and it's very clear that Mac is like not doing what she'd prefer to be doing, which is like relaxing. So her best friend says, oh my gosh, there's like a pop-up concert. Bad Bunny is going to be performing at a freezer behind some Ralph's.
Which there's only real one big Ralph's in
we know
Palm
the Ralph's
Springs.
in Palm Springs. I don't know where the concert, but you know, it's so stupid. But then of course they're all excited except Mac. And she's like, actually, there's some like regression therapy tent where it looks like you could just lay down and chill. So Mac wants to do that. They let her go. She does it, and the person
Luca, played by Simon Rex.
He kind of like unknowingly casts a spell on her while she's in this tanning bed, essentially. And he's asking her, who do you want to be? And we can get into how annoying I thought this character was, but she keeps saying like, I just want to relax. I want to lay down. I want to be a 70-year-old woman who can just relax and lay down.
And be myself.
And then lights flicker. She gets out of the tanning bed and she's Diane Keaton. So the bulk of the movie, over the course of what we're told is 1 month, we see this 30-year-old in the body of Diane Keaton, living her life. She renames herself Rita. So we see Rita like...
And she's posing as the aunt of
Mac. A month goes by when she sees that the Simon Rex character is like going to be at some wellness retreat in LA. So she decides to go and see if he can convert her back. And he does by doing the exact same spell he did. And then we flash forward a year. And she's written a book. We find out that Mac in the beginning is like a writer.
She's a memoirist.
So a year later, we see that she's written a book, which we can get into. And she's dating her neighbor, who is played by Dustin Milligan. And he had sort of a little fling with Diane Keaton. The end. I only agreed to watch this movie because I thought the supporting cast, namely Loretta Devine and Dustin Milligan, appealed to me. And when I read the synopsis, I thought, oh, like I feel like I probably could relate to this character who feels like they have an older spirit.
Mm-hmm. But there's also Nicole Byer, Patti Harrison, Taylour, Paige, Simon Rex, like all of these people concentrated. Wendie Malick, Lois Smith.
I did not like this movie. I thought the story was so half-baked. All of the things that would have been interesting as like just so many opportunities to tell a more interesting and provocative story, even though I think it's PG-13. I still feel like it could have pushed more boundaries.
Well, because we've seen this mechanism in many, many films. And basically this is the reverse Peggy Sue Got Married. Remember with Kathleen Turner, where she hits her head and wakes up in high school, but at her current age. And this is kind of going in the opposite direction. But if you're talking about Tom Hanks in Big, or The Hot Chick, or The Change Up, or in all the other films like that, like the Freaky Friday films, or 13 Going on 30, like we've seen that before. So what is there new to say? And I think there could have been a lot of poignant things to articulate about ageism and what it means to be a woman who's growing older, and where you fit in society, and what blah 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 blah. But it really doesn't do anything like that, and there's really no character arc for Mac or Rita, and she doesn't really learn anything, and she doesn't really help anybody along the way.
My first note is everyone's annoying. That was before we meet the old ladies, which we'll get into, but like Mac, her best friend, the two other friends, like it just...
There's a lot of things that don't make sense because they're in Palm Springs, and these other two ladies that are shown to us to be kind of like ditzy, they're telling Mac that she can't dress like that, you need to come correct. And if Carla, her best friend, is kind of like knows what she is and accepts her, she doesn't advocate for her.
Okay, so then we find out that Taylour Paige, her mom is played by Loretta Devine. We find out that Loretta Devine had to pull a lot of strings to get use of this house in Palm Springs. We never find out who the house belongs to. They say the name, which I think is Bobby or something.
That was Betty or
something like that. We don't know who this person is. It looks that the house looks like, and because it's in Palm Springs, but also the decor, it would seem that like an old gay man lives there, but then we go or drag queen, and we go in a closet and there's like old lady clothes, but whatever. They get to the house, and just like we don't really know who this house belongs to, why it was such a big deal to get it, why it was important to put this in the screenplay. Like, why do we care that Loretta had to pull strings to get this house? Because there's no point to it. Then, like you mentioned, if Taylour Paige is Mac's best friend, and they've known each other since they were little kids, she should know her friend does not want to do this kind of shit.
And let her wear a jumpsuit to brunch. Who cares?
It was so annoying witnessing that exchange. Then, when Mac turns into Rita, Diane Keaton, it's decided that Taylour Paige's character is just going to go back to LA and finish preparing for her wedding, and that Diane Keaton's going to figure out how to get back into her normal body. Which that only amounts to her going back to the tent, and we see that Simon Rex is packed up and gone. But Taylour Paige's character lets Rita borrow this very nice classic car, like a convertible.
Is it a Thunderbird?
Maybe, I'm not sure, but it's a very nice car, which is so unbelievable to me because it belongs to the person who this house is owned by. And we're made to believe that this person, it took a lot just to get like use of the house for a weekend. There's no way that person would be okay with her having this car. And then Rita has the car for the entire month back in LA. That, for some reason, that bothered me so much. Okay, Taylour Paige, I only know her from Zola, I think. Oh, and
Ma Rainey's Black
Rainey's Black
I think
Bottom.
she's so good in Zola.
I think she seemed miscast in this movie. It almost felt like maybe whoever wrote the movie didn't intend for that character to be black.
Yeah, they're same for Loretta.
And Loretta, so then they cast black people, but it just... Loretta brings her own little flavor to it, which is always a delight to see. But it just felt, particularly for Taylour Paige's character, it just seemed kind of off. And I hated her hair in this movie. But anyway.
Yes, that was a problem for you.
But the way she was acting, I could not see Paula Patton.
Which you're not a fan of, Paula Patton.
Okay, then we meet. So now Diane Keaton's back in LA, living as Rita with the 30-year-old mind of Mac. and she goes to see Loretta Devine because it's like Taylour Paige's character is having like another like bridal party or something. And that's where we meet Loretta Devine's like best friends.
Her posse.
And it's all these older women who she's known forever. They were the best part of the movie.
It's Lois Smith, Aimee Hill, who you should know from Next Friday, and Wendie Malick.
Yes. So it's unfortunate. God, there's so many other... You know it's not a good movie when I just keep thinking of ways it could have been better. But I think a better story would have been to focus on this old lady gang. Mm-hmm. And maybe they impart some wisdom on Rita. Because we know she's going to turn back to her 30-year-old self. But that doesn't really happen. All these old ladies do is crack little jokes and drink wine. Like in abundance. Mm-hmm. To the point where it becomes a little boring.
The house of abundance.
Yeah,
well, it's kind of like you either want them to veer in that direction, or with this group of younger women to be like, what are you learning about being a woman of a certain age? And I think that's where we're thinking about all the other ideas that we would have wanted to see in this film, like about a group of gay men, and one of them turns into this like old Auntie Mame type character and teaches them, to embrace.
Well, that would have been super fun.
Embrace, queer history and things. Like there's so many other ways this very derivative, formulaic device could be used to say something new, but this is...
If they didn't want to do a you said, which would have been more fun to me, they could have just done there are four old ladies, and then the four young women.
And like a Freaky Friday, a quartet of Freaky Friday.
Or not even that, it's the fact that Rita, who's the 70-year-old with a 30-year-old mind, she kind of brings the two groups together, and... In doing so, over the course of the film, the older women learn how to live life again and be rejuvenated. Mm-hmm. And the younger women learn how to be more self-assured and confident. But none of that happens. There is no development for anyone.
No, and then it's immediately disappointing to see, because I was close with my grandmother, and immediately there's this kind of promise that in the opening sequences, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get that kind of energy.
Yeah.
But then immediately when we meet Elizabeth Lail as Mac, she's completely let herself be subsumed by the culture around her. She's not being herself.
Her grandma's looking up at her from hell, talking about like, why did I even bother?
And to have written this...
No style, no confidence, no, like...
And to have written this well-received set of essays about your grandmother, and you're floundering because you don't know what to do now that she's gone from your life. None of that makes sense to me about how this young woman would have grown up. And then it's, Diane Keaton who also produced this. And I like Diane Keaton. I liked her in... she's even in probably the only Nancy Meyers film I really can stand, which is Something's Gotta Give. But, Oscar winner for Annie Hall and numerous other Woody Allen films that are very funny, and she has that kind of sensibility, that neurotic sensibility. But in this,
she seems mentally ill.
Yes.
She seems like someone took away her trazodone and she's just out in these streets raw dogging life. I don't understand why we spend so much time in the opening of the film explaining that Mac is an old gal on the inside and all she wants to do is relax and just be chill. Like, that's her entire characteristic, but personality trait. And then when she turns to an old woman, she's so chaotic. I don't understand why someone who just wants to chill...
Chaotic in ways that we set up these slapstick type scenarios that fall very flat.
Well, that's my next note. There's a scene where she goes to do Pilates because Mac, as a 30-year-old... So Patti Harrison plays her agent.
That best part of the movie is Patti
Which is probably the funniest part of the movie. So Mac wrote a book, like you mentioned, and it seems like she made money off of it because she lives in a very nice loft in what looks like the arts district of downtown LA.
Very unrealistic. Yes.
And then got a lot of shine off the book because her agent is able to get her work as an influencer. And she's making pretty good money, it seems, to just post shit on Instagram. So...
Which makes no sense considering her sensibilities.
So then after she converts to Diane Keaton, her agent doesn't know that because... Rita won't get on camera, so she's telling her, just go to this damn Pilates event and just take some pictures, bitch, and so we can get this money. So Diane Keaton goes, and immediately she's acting zany and telling the Pilates instructor, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And then it's just like, I don't know.
A Pilates instructor dressed like Marie Antoinette.
It's like, it almost feels like they're trying to do like an episode of I Love Lucy.
Yes.
Except Lucille Ball did it 100 times better. Diane Keaton is just flailing about, acting weird. I don't know why her character says she could do Pilates. And then we get this long extended scene of her being stupid on the reformer. Then while she's there, she takes a picture of herself in the mirror and accidentally posts it on Instagram. And this is when another plot line occurs where Rita, Diane Keaton's character, becomes like she goes viral. And they're calling her a glamma. And Patti Harrison says, get her her own account. And instantly she's making like $100,000.
She signs a contract for $100,000.
Which, we can get to that. But again, I just don't understand why a 30-year-old who all they wanted to be was chill and relax finally gets the opportunity. And they're being chaotic and doing all the things that they didn't want to do when they were 30. Mac, as a 30-year-old, is saying, she doesn't want to be an influencer. She doesn't like going to these events.
But the point of this, I think, is supposed to be that she is allowed to be herself, and so she's all of a sudden flourishing, and no matter what she touches, because she's allowed to let loose.
It just seems so basic.
And then, of course, she carries on this romance with Dustin Milligan,
who's Mac's neighbor in the loft building she lives in.
Jack, who takes care of her dog named Cheese while she's gone. Mac and Cheese. Jack, Mac and Cheese. And I like Dustin Milligan. I think he is a charming screen presence, but that character is doo-doo. I mean...
The writing, yeah. He does the best he can, but...
He might as well be a robot.
Yeah.
And then it's not... Again, there would be something kind of it's still subversive to see that kind of age differential between an older woman and a younger man.
In a romantic
sense that is interesting and still a bit taboo and would have been pushing the limits a bit. But this is no Harold and Maude. They have no chemistry.
Zero.
None whatsoever.
When they kiss, I was like, oh. Like, did he, like, trip and kiss it? Like, it just... And it happens kind of...
And there's no...
We see it coming, but it's just like there's zero reason why these two would be romantically inclined.
And there's also no reconciliation because then Rita, leaves when she changes back to Mac, and then Mac has a romance with him. It's like, there would be... I don't know. You have
to reconcile the fact that, like, I was kind of in love with your old ass aunt,
and there's this,
and like, where is she? Like, why?
A conversation to be had that would be very interesting.
That would have, again, so much could have happened. I can't believe that the film ends with him not knowing that, like, what happened. That's another point I wanted to make. Initially, when Diane Keaton shows up at this, house in Palm Springs, and Taylour Paige's character sees her, she's freaked out because there's an old woman tapping on the patio door. But then very easily she convinces her that, hey, it's really Mac. I'm just an old woman now. And then it's just like, okay. And then when she explains it to the old women, they're just like, oh, okay. No one's freaked out by this. Then when she turns back to her 30-year-old self, everyone's just like, oh, yeah. You mentioned, which I think makes sense after watching the movie Nope, it's such a big plot point that Keke Palmer's character is like, we can get rich off of a picture of an alien. I just thought, like...
Yeah, I would have been like, we need to document this.
We need to document the fact that this woman, like, changed bodies. Like,
yeah, that would be a life-changing experience to even just witness. And everybody is so blasé about it. I know it's Los Angeles, but come on.
Speaking of crunchy, there's a scene where Rita is explaining to her old lady gang friends that she's like an influencer. And I thought the writing was so bad because she's talking to them like they don't even know. She refers to her cell phone as like, some cutesy thing, like trying to explain that it's like a
pocket picture album or something.
But then it's like, so she's talking to these old ladies like they don't even know what a cell phone is. But then we see like, who's the lady from Hot in Cleveland?
Wendie Malick.
Her character seems to be very proficient, like, because she says, like, oh, I post on Instagram all the time. But then she's also talking like she doesn't know what it is.
Oh, that's not a real job to do.
It's just bad writing, like, that you're talking, these characters are acting like they don't know what you're talking about, but then in the same breath, they are in fact exemplifying that they do know. I just thought that entire scene. And then she says at the end of it, let's all take a picture. And even the way they're taking the picture is like she doesn't know how to do it. What? You're a 30-year-old influencer who's gone viral now. You were already an influencer. You do this for a living, and then you act like you don't know how to hold a camera. But it's important to know she took that picture because then we find out in the end that those old ladies have gone viral, and Patti Harrison's character is managing them.
I mean, it all goes viral.
Okay, getting back to another scene that I feel like could have been fun but wasn't is... Rita has to make a decision whether she's going to go to an influencer event, which she's kind of forced to because it's part of that $100,000 contract she signed, or go to the rehearsal dinner for her best friend's wedding. And she thinks that she can do both. And we can talk about how stupid that was, but she goes to the event and Nicole Byer is there doing like a breathing exercise. So of course you see this lady doing like some wellness health thing. That's already funny, right? Because this is a big lady. And that's not even funny. She's literally just up there talking about breathing, so there are no jokes. It's not funny. So 2 things I wanted to mention. Whomever thinks that Nicole Byer needs to wear all those horrible wigs all the time is sorely mistaken, because
It might be her.
if you're watching this, Nicole, you look so nice with your natural hair. So she has like a low fade with like a part cut in. I thought she looked so nice with that. Stop wearing them.
Like Loretta Devine, too.
Well, Loretta Devine does often wear her natural hair.
Yes, but...
And she looks great with that. But yeah, Nicole Byer is always wearing these wigs that look so ridiculous on her. She looks so nice without them. But it's supposed to be a fun scene because Rita, Diane Keaton's like doing this breathing thing, acting all like Stevie Nicks on crack. And then she's holding these lit candles. And she's also wearing a wig. Which seems stupid because a big plot point for her character is that she cuts her hair. And then she's wearing a wig with the same color hair but longer. And the wig catches on fire. And you would think that'd be
burns down the whole outside tent.
Because you know what's a super funny scene with an old lady catching on fire?
Oh God, are you gonna talk about Ellen Burstyn and Flowers in the Attic?
Well, that's super funny. No. Cloris Leachman in the Wedding Ringer.
Oh God. Cloris Leachman was always so good.
That's how you do an old lady on fire. This shit was like, it's just like, oh, my wig, and then she throws it off, and it's like, this is not even.
That scene is a missed opportunity, but also going right preceding it when she's going through this dilemma and talking to Jack about it. He's like, well, what does your contract say? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And then he's like, well, let me see it. And then she literally picks up her phone and she's like, blah, blah, here's the contract.
But again, she's handling things like, you are a 30-year-old woman who works like online as a living. Why are you she's even holding the phone like a little old lady who doesn't know which side is up. I just don't understand, like,
you know, Diane Keaton produced this, and it's like a woman of that stature, and I feel like it's hard for people to direct them. I can't imagine, it's like, Meryl Streep.
I mean, I can't get you to do what I want, so I can only imagine how difficult she is.
Meryl Streep getting notes from Andrea Arnold on Big Little Lies 2 and just being like, nope, not going to do it. Okay.
Can we talk about, so when Rita finally tells the old lady gang, like, I'm actually Mac, and she only tells them because Loretta's character witnesses an interaction between her daughter.
We need to talk about that too, but yeah.
And then she explains to old ladies, and they very willingly accept that this is reality. Diane Keaton has a scene with Loretta Devine where she's talking to her like she didn't grow up with her. Like, Mac is a 30-year-old, grew up with Loretta Devine. And then Loretta's talking to her like she doesn't know that, because Loretta's character is a lesbian. Like, I just thought that was such terrible writing that...
Well, it's like we want to get this exposition out about this character for some reason, even though we don't go anywhere with it. And that's the way they do it is, again...
But you grew up with this lady, so you would have known about her life. You would have known about these friends. And she's talking to her, this person, and interacting with these people like she's never heard of them.
And that would have been a much better way for the film to allow... Loretta's character, Sharon to realize that that's Mac inside this old lady's body.
Right.
Because she knows all these things about me that she couldn't possibly know.
Right. Like again, or something that would have been interesting that you alluded to yesterday is I also kind of thought that they're telling us Loretta's a lesbian because maybe she might be attracted to Rita.
Because instantly she has a look in her eye like, oh, hi, you look cute. Like, I'm like, oh, she's going to hit on her. And that's going to be funny because that's going to be super awkward.
And then that could have been where she's explained to her, like, no, I actually know you. You're kind of like a mother to me. Ugh. My final note is, okay, in the end, like a year later, we see that now Mac is in a relationship with Dustin Milligan's character, and she's at a book signing at Barnes & Noble, which only has like 40 people there. And she even says like, oh, I brought all my like closest people here to read.
Yeah, it's all people we've seen.
Girl, you could have had this at your house.
Why'd you gotta get Barnes & Noble wrapped up?
Yeah, why do you get Barnes & Noble wrapped up in this bullshit? But anyway, she's reading the book, like a page from the book called Mack and Rita. But the book, and I ended the movie thinking, what is the book about? Because the book is titled Mac and Your 70-Year-Old Alter Ego, but then the page you read is about your actual grandma.
Which I believe is the monologue, the narration from the beginning. Opening. From your memoir about your grandma.
You know what I think? This person wrote this little half-baked script, and then it got, they have connections, and it got like all these amazing people involved. Now we have to shoot next week. If you want this to work, we have to shoot now. So there was no time to like really flesh out the script.
And it looks well enough.
It looks nice. But yeah, it just feels like this shit was written.
Oh, but
this feels like it was written over lunch.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. When Mac and Rita miss the reception rehearsal for Carla because of this burning hair incident, and she shows up and Carla is livid.
So mad
like
that her best friend missed her rehearsal dinner
for
$100,000 gig
for basically. An influencer event. But it's like your friend is like stuck in one of the most insane things that would never happen to a person.
Like, right?
Wouldn't you just be like, you need to get your life together?
My 30-year-old best friend turned into a mentally ill 70-year-old woman, and I'm mad that she didn't make it to my rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
What kind of writing is this?
It's not good writing. It's not.
And then we didn't even mention all the obvious things, like the fact that the 30-year-old turns into a 7-year-old and how her body has changed. She's being romantic with a much younger man, and we don't even talk about vaginal dryness, menopause, like nothing.
All we get is initially she doesn't like Rita's hair because she thinks it's coarse.
It's dry and brittle.
And then she did her breasts.
And then she refers to her breasts as being big, like she doesn't like them because they're big. I just think, and I'm not saying make fun of the old lady body. I'm saying like this could have been a really sort of edgy thing about talking about embracing our bodies as we get older and being comfortable and talking about the things no one wants to talk about.
That's what comedy and horror are supposed to be for. Those are genres where we're able to talk about things that are uncomfortable or unseemly for whatever reason. But
I'm sorry, we shit on this movie. I can imagine some people liking it.
Oh, I heard the people walking out of the press screening be like, well, that was cute. Sure.
I mean, if the only way I would have watched this otherwise is maybe if I was stuck on an airplane, and I probably would have to like watch it in 3 segments.
I've seen too many movies with Diane Keaton as an older woman in a terrible film like that Mandy Moore movie, Because I Said So, or Smother, or Darling Companion, which is bleh, and I think that's a Lawrence Kasdan film. So immediately I saw her headlining, I was like, oh, I'm gonna pass. But again, I saw the cast list, and I'm like, oh, I want to see these people in this film.
I did want to say, I think Diane Keaton looks nice. She looks like she's been refreshed. And her teeth look very. She looks nice.
You know what? Nice. I would recommend go back and watch Palms, that movie that Angelica Houston shit all over about. Diane Keaton moving to an old folks facility.
Who's the little short lady with the blonde hair?
Jackie Weaver is so good in Palms, and Pam Grier is in it. That has the kind of energy I wish this had. I'm not saying that's a great film, but it satisfies on a better level.
Or just watch 90 minutes worth of Golden Girls.
Or go back and watch Sleeper, or Annie Hall, or Looking for Mr. Goodbar. Now that is a good Diane Keaton movie.
Oh my God. What would you give it?
2, and that's being very kind.
Yeah, I would give it 2, I guess.
You can do.
I mean, I didn't like it, so it doesn't matter. Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.